All right, welcome back to The Few Show, everybody. My name is Bud. I'm an account executive here at xfusion.io and co-host of The Few Show. I am super excited to be joined today by my guest, Elizabeth Dodson. Elizabeth is the co-founder of HomeZada, an online home management solution. She brings more than 20 years of experience in marketing, financial planning, sales, and partner management to this revolutionary venture. Ms. Dodson is responsible for the business, management, sales, marketing, and partner relationships for HomeZada. Elizabeth, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me, Bud. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one, I think. So let's get started by just telling us about HomeZada, and then we'll get into all the other stuff.
Yeah. Absolutely. So HomeZada is a digital home management platform for homeowners who are looking to save money, save time, and also de-stress their process of managing their home. And what it does is it provides the people the ability to take a home inventory, to manage a maintenance calendar, so they no longer have to keep it up here in their head. And then they can manage projects with our templates, which actually helps them manage these projects to stay in budget, but also work through the process and the tasks that they need in the order in which they need them to complete the project. The other thing that we do is track all the home finances. And also, if you have multiple homes, you can track multiple homes. And when you're ready to sell your home, you take a subset of this data, you break it apart, and you give it to the new homeowner so they can take over your maintenance calendar, the projects that you've already completed, and any structural inventory that you have crafted inside HomeZada for them to continue to manage the home.
Wow. So it's kind of a all-in-one, we'll just take everything for you. You don't have to have papers laying all over the house. You don't have to have a safe full of all your stuff. You can have it all in one little place on your computer or phone or wherever you want to have it.
Anywhere you've got an internet connection, you can access this data, and it's private and secure until the homeowner wants to share it with somebody.
Nice. How do you keep it private and secure?
A lot of ways. So we have high levels of security. So first of all, we use a concept called distributed data. That's the first thing, which means that your data is spread out in different servers. We also have double encryption, so that's also very important. And then there's a variety of other components that we have with regards to security that anyone can find on our website, because we've got a whole page dedicated to the security of the application.
Nice. And that's important because you're talking about, everybody's biggest asset, right?
That's correct.
Like, this is usually the biggest asset that anybody's ever going to have. So you want to make sure that if they're trusting you with all this information that they're putting on your website, you want to make sure that it is very secure.
In addition to that, think about the contents in people's home.
Mm-hmm.
It's really important. Most people, the contents in their home, it's worth more than what is in their checking account. Maybe not their savings, but definitely their checking account, because people want to make sure that they're not keeping too much in there. But one of the things that we want to make sure is all of those contents are protected and no one has access to that. It's very, very important.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so I want to go back just a couple seconds here and say you have built into that home finances. How do you have the home finances built into this app, and how do you help keep track of all that?
Great question. So we've spent approximately 33% annually on our homes. And that's a lot of our income to spend. It's a third of our income to spend on our homes annually. It's a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And that is
very much
both the mortgage, the insurances, the taxes, but it's also all the other expenditures that most people are either not tracking or they don't know where it is. And that could be from maintenance tasks, changing an air filter, you still need to pay for the air filter. Or you may have a service provider come in and check your roof. You still need to pay those fees. You also have utilities and other expenses to manage your home regularly that you also need to track. In addition to that, you also have maybe a second mortgage, because maybe you decided to do some improvements on your home. And then from there, you also have those project details. So all of those components that I've just described have a financial impact to not only your home, but your overall finances. So what we want to do is bring all of that data into one central location so that you can evaluate it to make sure that the expenses are not exceeding at least that 33%, even though we want to try to help people save on that 33%. In addition to that, think about our homes. As you said earlier, they're usually one of our largest assets. And so we build equity in our homes. We can also bring forward forecasted values of your home over time so that you can understand, this is how much I have on my mortgage, and therefore this is how much equity I have in my home, or assets that I can use for my retirement or for other things.
That's awesome. Yeah, I like this already, and we're only 5 minutes into the show. Yeah,
we want to create a little mini balance sheet for everybody who has a home, and that's what we can do inside HomeZada.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, we've been talking so far just about, well, okay, I don't want to go there yet. Let's stay on the B2C area of this, and say somebody has this, they move into a home, they have HomeZada for the entire time they have this home, they want to sell it, right? They've been keeping all of their inventory of what they've been doing the entire time they have their home, all of their maintenance inventory. They sell the home. Now, can they transfer all of those to the next buyer of the home that they just sold and say, hey, we have this HomeZada. This is all of our maintenance records. You should probably have these. How does that transfer over to the next buyer?
It's a great question. And yes, we can do that. And what we do is we create a wizard inside the system. So almost like Oz. But we create a little wizard inside the system. We walk our homeowners through this process in groupings. What information do you want to transfer and what information don't you? And we do that as a stepstone in order to help people protect themselves a little bit from themselves, because people sometimes forget how to break apart information. And all of a sudden, they're sending their personal possessions to the new buyer. We don't want to do that. That's why we have these wizards. We walk them through them in sections. We want to transfer this information, and it's easily done through the wizard. And then once the wizard is completed, the system will ask you, do you want to transfer this information? And the homeowner will say, or the HomeZada user will say, yes, I do. And it goes to the new home buyer simply through an email. The email by the home buyer then authenticates it's them, because that's one of the first steps of security. And then they go from there, and they set up their own password and so on and so forth. And they can continue to manage the home. And it's up to them, to the new buyer, to make sure that they're actually adding their own personal inventory as well.
Nice. And looking at your website, they have 3 different options.
Yes.
Of being able to keep HomeZada, right? They have a free version, and then they have 2, I think, extremely cheap options to be able to keep HomeZada. I think for what you offer, it's incredibly inexpensive. I don't want to say cheap, because it's not cheap. It's incredibly inexpensive for the value that you get. So all they have to do is say, okay, yes, never heard of HomeZada before, but hey, thanks for all the maintenance records. And then they can look at it and say, oh, great. Yeah, I do want to sign up for this. Or if they don't want to sign up for it, then they just have those maintenance records.
So they do have those, but they also have inventory for free. So that's something to consider. For every homeowner, taking home inventory is not always the easiest thing, but we make it easy through different parameters. If you tell us the number of bedrooms and bathrooms and the type of home you have, we predict the generic spaces and the generic items in those spaces to get people started. And then we walk people through that process inside the application. So that part is free, and that's really important for people who suffer from tornadoes or hurricanes or fires, or they actually just aren't taking the time to maintain their home and they may have some damage. So that part is free. And then as people get into maintenance projects, finances, that is a small fee annually to pay for that. And then if you manage multiple homes, that's also a slightly more fee, but it's a small fee to manage all those homes. And I can tell you that my customers tell me exactly how much they save. So a good example is I had one customer. He signed up immediately because he had a late tax bill. And the fee for the tax bill, the late fee, was $500. He basically said HomeZada paid for itself in 10 years. That was easy. And nobody wants to pay more taxes than they have to, let's face it. So he was really frustrated because he couldn't get that late fee back. So he signed up for HomeZada right away and said, I'm never going to be in this position again. I can even attest to my own example. I also live in fire area in California. And so my insurance company makes sure that I trim back a lot of the trees in my property. And I do that. But I couldn't find a document for a tree trimmer I used. Somehow, some way, I was just misplaced. I couldn't figure it out. I was searching through HomeZada, but I really wasn't searching in the way I should have because I just couldn't find it. And so my husband kindly reminded me to use the search functionality, and I actually found the previous contractor that I used. And the reason why this is important is because I had actually gotten 3 new quotes from new contractors who are tree trimmers because I couldn't originally find that previous bid. And I was like, these bids look just too high. And even my husband said, this is just way too high. But we couldn't remember when we last trimmed the trees because it must have been like 7 to 8 years before. You can't remember exactly what the bills are. So because my husband is so smart and because I also work with him and he helped create HomeZada, he says, did you use the search bar in HomeZada? I go, I did not. And so I used the search bar. I found the old contract and I was like, oh yes, I saved $4,000 just because I had that document in there. Exactly. And I was like, I said something didn't feel right with these rates. And so I called the previous tree trimmer and he goes, yeah, we can honor that rate. He goes, in fact, you're going to trim less. He goes, I'll make it even cheaper for you. And I'm like, fantastic. Perfect. I loved it. Babe. Exactly. And thank you for HomeZada.
Yes. Awesome. Oh, that's great. And we'll get into working with your husband here in a little bit. But staying with HomeZada right now. We've talked a lot about your B2C, but that's not where HomeZada stops, right? You have a whole B2B section on here as well. Like you work with real estate agents, you work with just a whole section of businesses. So let's go ahead and talk about that.
Sure.
And let me get on your site here. And you can work with insurances, mortgages, real estate agents, property managers, builders, service providers. Like, tell me about how your whole B2B platform came to be and why you decided to go just run the entire gamut with HomeZada, B2C, B2B. And then let's talk about the difference with working B2C and B2B and how different that is.
Yeah, so for all the other entrepreneurs out there, I do not recommend going all out right away. But we did have some experiences because we built a previous company and sold that before. But when it comes to B2B, we recognized when we first built HomeZada that we were a B2C company. We had to make sure that our customers were willing to use the platform. They were willing to sign up, use it, and also pay for it. And then we have proven that out. We have customers in all 50 states, and we have customers also in 20 countries, and yet we don't advertise in these other countries. So people truly do need a platform like HomeZada to help them better manage one or many homes. And so that's what we have. But we also realized that long term, we were going to be able to work with our B2B partners in conjunction with their customers. And we thought we had some time for that. But as we launched HomeZada, almost within the first 12 months, we started getting a lot of inquiries from real estate agents, from insurance companies, from mortgage loan brokers and officers. We were also getting information from property managers, just a lot of inquiries and requests. Do you have this and don't you have this? And what about this and what about that? And we didn't have that immediately. So within the first 2 years, we actually added HomeZada Professional. And HomeZada Professional is our quick ad to give our partners who want to self-service, like our consumer customers, the ability to sign up and to buy properties for their customers as almost like a closing gift. So think about a real estate agent who is giving a closing gift, and they may traditionally give a bottle of wine or a Home Depot gift card or something else that doesn't have their branding on it. And so this enables them to stay connected to their homeowner after that initial transaction. And then that homeowner can continue to remember who that agent was, to refer them, to use them again in 7 years, all those types of activities. So we were able to build HomeZada Professional to allow people to give the gift of HomeZada. We also enabled HomeZada Professional to allow companies who enter data on behalf of the customer or manage it for them or with them to engage with their customers. So there's a couple of examples with that. So there are boutique industries like inventory professionals and professional organizers and move managers who go in and perform a home inventory on behalf of their clients. And then they transfer that property, and the client then continues to manage the rest of the aspects of HomeZada and their home. The other thing that you can think of is a maintenance contractor. There's a lot of contractors that are coming into the concierge maintenance experience, and they want to manage the maintenance aspects of the home along with the customer. So they can also use HomeZada Professional to manage these maintenance tasks, come into the home periodically, and then share this data with their customer, the homeowner, so that they can all see what's going on and what's going to be happening as it relates to the maintenance task. And then the third example is a property manager. A property manager may not turn over the property to another homeowner or what have you. They actually have the need to manage all the maintenance tasks, all the data about all these properties, including rental income, and they can do that with HomeZada Professional, and they can sign up and buy each property at a time, or they can buy properties in bulk. And so that's where we built HomeZada Professional. Now, in addition to that, we also have strategic partners who are not self-serving, and they have a much broader need of HomeZada. And then we take those conversations offline, and they tend to be much larger companies who want to make a larger investment to buy many more gifts for their customers, or they even need integrations into HomeZada from their back-end systems, which is a slightly different kind of relationship. And those contracts are oftentimes more complex. So this goes into, we've got B2C clients, we've got B2B2C clients who are on the smaller scale, and then we've also got large strategic clients that require enterprise selling.
Jeez. Yeah.
Bite off more than you can chew. Nothing like it.
That's crazy.
It is crazy.
Yeah. I want to go back just a second before we go forward.
Yes.
And say one thing that I read with your oh shoot, where'd it go? Your property managers.
Yes.
There was one thing that I really liked in there, where your property managers, and tell me if I'm wrong, if I read this incorrectly, but your property managers can actually take one of their properties and share it with their renters, correct? So that they can take over the management of that property while they're renting.
That's correct.
But keep the rest of them, with them. So you actually have the ability to kind of pop off each property if you're a property manager.
That's correct.
And say, okay, you're living here, you need to change, this is your schedule for changing the, whatever, all your filters and this and that and, whatever. I just think that's very cool.
Yeah.
For the little things. I mean, obviously the bigger things, the property managers still, they need to take care of, but it's just the little things. Like, you guys have thought of everything.
Well, we try to, and we know there's more. We've got a 10-year roadmap probably with all the different things we want to add. But also think about, there's a lot of new companies that are coming out now as well that are in kind of that property manager space where they're rent to own. So these companies are buying properties. They're giving people the opportunity to learn, to rent, but also learn how to care for a home and then take over it. And going back to what you just said, that property manager or that rent-to-own company can break off that property and send it to the new owner of the home. And now it is their responsibility as a homeowner to take on all aspects of home maintenance.
Cool. All right. So now going forward again, you have all this working.
Yep.
How do you build your team to be able to put all this into play? Like, I know that you've built your team a little bit different than a lot of companies built their team, because I did some research on you guys. So let's tell the listening audience how you've kind of built your team up here. You have 3 different co-founders, but your team is not built like a normal company.
Yes. So fortunately, we are 3 co-founders, and we are fortunate. We all used to work together at the previous company that we started, grew, sold, and then continue to work with the publicly traded company. So we work together. So we are at an advantage in terms of each one of us has our own swim lanes, and we stay in those swim lanes. And that means we have our own experiences. So I focus on marketing and business development. My other co-founder focuses on the actual development of the product. So he's a coder. And then my other co-founder focuses on the finances, the investment, and also product design, which a lot of people forget about. He basically takes, John, he actually takes the information that our customers share with us, partners and consumers, the information that I share based on what I'm hearing in the marketplace, or also my own personal experience using the product. And then he also takes that information to David, my other co-founder, who's the coder, and he deciphers all of that. And then he takes the information from David and brings it back to me. So he's almost like a translator, which also works really well. And so it makes it really easy for us to work together as a team. And so that's the first thing. So the first thing is, if you are going to build a software company for all the entrepreneurs out there, make sure you can find a developer that you also can trust. If you don't, put them through the paces and ask for their references. So it's really important. We were fortunate that everybody worked together before, so we understood each other's skill set. And that's also a really positive situation, because you can't escape your weaknesses either. We all know each other's weaknesses.
Right.
So we have to find the resources to help us. One of the things that we decided to do early on is we understood that this company was going to be a marathon. We started the company probably a little too early. And so we had to the market had to catch up with what we were offering. And then we realized we also don't like laying people off. We did need to do that once at our previous company. It is not a pleasant thing at all, because you're basically laying off the people that you build relationships with that are basically your family. And you don't want to do that. And it's just not a pleasant experience. It's really frustrating. It's really sad when you have to do that. And so we decided we were going to take a proactive approach, and we were going to build a team full of contractors. So they can come in and they do partial work. We don't always need them full time. And then what that does for us is not only give individuals opportunities to add to their portfolio, but it also gives us the ability to help other companies grow. And so we have some other organizations that we work with, and many of these people started their companies after leaving the previous company that we all worked for, because yes, it's important when you build your network from your previous company. Many of those individuals will leave and start their own companies. Well, that is exactly what happened. So also we built this great relationship of trust with those individuals, because we'd all work together. And those individuals started building their companies, and now we're helping them build their companies with us as a client, and they're now gaining additional clients as well. So it's a win-win-win-win-win for all of us. And then we can manage our cash flow as well, so that we can elongate our time into building out this company. And then as time goes on, we will bring in more employees.
Awesome. So what is your actual internal team size right now?
Great question. So it's 3 full-time co-founders, and then we have approximately 20 contractors that work part-time basically. They'll a couple hours here, a couple hours a day. They'll come in project by project because maybe we don't need a developer full-time on certain aspects of the project. For instance, UI, UX, we'll bring them on periodically. So it's great. We love it.
Yeah.
And they're spread out all over as well. So that's the other thing. When you work with contractors.
Like all over the world or all over the country?
All over the world, primarily in North America, though. So we have Canada and the U.S., and it's in all different states. The only thing you have to work with is time zones. So we make it work, and we're very fortunate. We learned this from the previous company. The previous company had 2 co-founders. One was from the Sacramento area. One was from the Vancouver, British Columbia area. They met on a job site in LA, and they said, okay, we're going to start this company. So they basically both moved back home with their families. And from day one, we were always an international company, and we always had 2 major offices in our company, at the previous company. And then we built those offices up based on skill set. And then as time went on, because we were in a very niche organization, that previous company was in commercial construction, project management, to find really great people, you kind of had to take them where they were, which actually benefited us. Remote people were really great because you now manage your cost effectiveness. So what I mean by that is, as you have employees who have the skill sets on the East Coast, you can send them to East Coast customers. Same thing with the Central region, same thing with the West region. Rather than flying everybody from the West to some other area of the country, that's just lost time, and you actually risk opportunity costs.
Nice. That's very cool. So, I mean, obviously every business is different.
Yes.
And every business has different needs, but you're doing this with really 3 full-time employees and outsourcing the rest of it.
Yes.
And that's incredible. That's awesome. I think that's a very, very cool story.
Thank you.
Well, you're a workaholic, so what do you do for fun?
So we will travel. We will go hang out with our friends. We'll do all kinds of stuff that's local, but I also have friends all over the country. So a lot of times I'll go meet up with them somewhere. And here's the benefit. When you have a tech company, you can work anywhere.
Yeah, have computer, will travel.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Cool. All right, so we kind of went over your co-founders and how you guys differ a little bit, and how that's kind of turned into strengths. What was the genesis of this whole thing?
Sure.
Like, why was this such an important thing for you to start?
It's a great question. So it does go back to the previous company. The previous company was the world's leader in commercial construction project management software. So for those people on the phone who are unfamiliar, think about major projects, whether it's roadways, bridges, it's stadiums, it's large buildings, it's schools, hospitals. Those structures need a system to get them completed on time and within specific budgets, and actually managing a lot of different contracts. So we built this project management system that tracked all of this information: contracts, budgets and costs, delivery of materials, all the different humans that need to be on these projects, subcontractors, etc., engineers, architects, all the different plans, making sure the documents are correct and they're up to date, because you're always having revisions. And then also any kind of communication. Really important to understand that. And originally we started with the contractors, so the large GCs in the world and the construction managers. And then we moved on to subcontractors, engineers, EPC companies, engineer, procure, and construct for people who don't know who that is. And then also all the owner operators. So companies like Disney, or companies like the Illinois Tollway Authority, or school districts, what have you, even the Dallas Cowboys Stadium. So with that said, I said to myself, while I'm selling all these different projects around the world, I said, okay, how come I can manage all these amazing projects, but I do not have the tools to manage my house? I don't know where the money's going about my house. I had 2 houses. One was on the East Coast, one was on the West Coast. The materials are different. I'm frustrated with I can't track any of this information. All my insurance companies are telling me to take a home inventory, but they're giving me a simple trifold pamphlet. And I'm like, I can't even put the stuff in one room on this pamphlet. And furthermore, I'm in tech. Why would I actually put something on a piece of paper? And it was frustrating. I also had pieces of paper all over my house. I think I had it in like 8 different locations, just real estate documents and plans and owner's manuals. I'm like, this is crazy. So how is it that I can't figure out where all this data is, and I can't figure out what I'm spending on my house? And on top of that, I didn't want to argue with my husband over maintenance tasks. That's silly. It's just a waste of both our times. So I didn't have a system. I looked and looked for 10 years. I still couldn't find anything. And I'm fortunate that I also am married to one of my co-founders, my husband, who also started a previous company. So he is an entrepreneur and a tinkerer, and he just loves building things. And with that said, he kept hearing me complain, as did everyone else in the office, and they probably got sick of it. But he kept hearing me complain, and back in 2006, we actually sold the previous company, and we're working for a publicly traded company, which was an amazing experience. It's a large global company. We gained a lot of friendships. We gained a lot of connections and just amazing different experiences. But my husband came to me, and he said, I think you're on something. You've got this great idea. He goes, I'm ready to build something new again. That entrepreneurial spirit never dies. Mm-hmm. And so we up and quit our jobs and started building HomeZada. And as I understand it, because I didn't at the time, I said, what are you talking about with this great idea? He goes, for the last year, I've been like kind of tinkering on off hours about what this product could look like. So he was already designing it before we even quit our jobs in his own time. So that's the kind of things he likes to do on his spare time, is tinker and build new things and come up with new ideas. So lo and behold, here we are with HomeZada, and we took a chance, not knowing the B2C market, not knowing some of the residential market because we came from commercial, not understanding insurance and mortgage, and we said we're biting off a lot, but we really believe in what we're doing. And one of the catalysts to this was I had a hot water heater that broke at my house, which is a brand new house. The hot water heater broke, I think it was like 2 years in. And I go, this hot water heater should last forever. And being in project management, my husband and I built our house, and this didn't make any sense to me. And we had a maintenance individual come out, check out the hot water heater, and he had said, this needs to be replaced. And I go, why? He goes, there's too much sediment in it. And where I live, we are at the base of the foothills of the Sierra Nevadas. So there's a lot of sediment in these mountainous type areas, and the system has to go through its own process. He goes, if you had flushed this like you were supposed to once a year, maybe even twice a year because of where you live, then you wouldn't have had to replace it, and it would have lasted forever. And I asked him, so wait a second, I have the disposable income where I can replace this. What happens when people can't replace it and they don't have the disposable income? He goes, it's a couple of different things. He goes, either they have to go into credit card debt to replace it because they didn't have the money. 2, they may not replace it at all. And I go, but wait a second. That then results in cold showers, which is just an inconvenience. It's like not even that big a deal, but it's just a major inconvenience. And I said, but what about like dishes? Like you're not washing dishes with hot water and you're not able to do some other things. And they said, yeah, it just doesn't happen. And I go, that's just unacceptable to me. People need the ability to know that they just need to flush their hot water heater, which takes them maybe 30 minutes, if that. And they can elongate the lifespan of their equipment. And that's just one piece of equipment. And at the same time, that's all they need to know. And they can have hot water, so they can have clean dishes, and they can clean clothes, and they can take warm showers. And they said, yeah. And I go, there's got to be a better way to get this information out to people. Because I don't think people should have to go into debt because they didn't know they needed to flush something. Right. And so that's kind of what took this off. I mean, my complaining because I couldn't track it for my own self, but also helping other people understand it's really the simple things And you can avoid fires, floods in your house, all different kinds of things, simply by taking care of the equipment and the property that you have. But you need to know what to do, because most people don't know what to do, or they forget. And they don't keep a record of it, and they don't get reminders.
Yeah. Yeah. And HomeZada just does that for you.
It does it.
It's awesome.
It tells you when to do things next.
But it's, there's a couple different ways that businesses start. Mm-hmm. And one is out of necessity. Mm-hmm. One is out of a pain point. Mm-hmm. And one is, somebody sees that I can make money doing this, and so they start something. But yours was definitely out of a pain point.
Oh yes.
Kind of a mix between a pain point and necessity. Mm-hmm. So, it's awesome, and you're making it work. So that's great. I want to kind of switch things up and talk about, because you brought this up a couple times now about your husband and working with your husband and starting a business with your spouse, because that's not something that a lot of people can do. But you have done it, and and you're making it work.
Yes.
So how are you making it work? Because there's not a lot of people that can do that.
That's correct. So first caveat, my husband and I were in the same industry, and then when I went to work for his previous company, I was the girlfriend. And I had the skill set and the connections in the industry, so that was a positive. But that in and of itself was challenging. And so we worked together for, almost 25 years now. That's a long time. It's almost as long as we've been married. And so basically what ends up happening is we decided we needed to set guidelines right up front. And some of those guidelines were, I still go by my maiden name for work. And that's a good thing, because you'd be surprised at how many people don't realize you're actually married, from customers to employees to a variety of others. But we wanted to make sure we stood a professional line when we were at work. So maiden name, nice. There's no terms of endearment. There's no touchy-feely at the office. None of that stuff. And everyone's like, what? You wouldn't even know you guys are married. I go, that's the point. Here, we're just coworkers. And then at the same time, you never report to the other. That's a good thing. You always have kind of middlemen or women in between, so that they can be Switzerland between everybody, which is really good. And then the next thing that we would always do, which I thought was really valuable, is we know each other really well, my husband and I, but whenever we went to company events or client dinners, we would never sit next to each other. We would always sit at opposite ends of the table, because it gave us the opportunity to get to know the other employees, get to know the other customers, the partners that we had. And that was really important, because they get to know us as individuals, not just as this couple, because eventually everyone finds out. And sure. They just are like, how do you do this? But we always set guidelines. We also set guidelines as it relates to working time. So I'm an early bird, like super early. And then my husband is a night owl. So if I ask him a lot of questions in the morning, especially before he's had coffee, then I'm not going to get a coherent response, because he's not going to understand what I'm talking about. And then same thing if he asks me questions late at night. That's just not going to work. So we take that into consideration and schedule all of our meetings in the middle of the day. And that works best for us, because we're both aware, we're both cognizant, we both have our brains working so that we can make intelligent, great decisions about what's going on. We also have regular meetings, which I'm a big proponent of. And the regular meetings that we have take into consideration all the different tasks we have going on. As we indicated earlier, there's 3 of us with a bunch of contractors. So we really have to know what's going on in the business, because sometimes our swim lanes have to cross over, sheerly because there sometimes is more work on partner management versus, let's say, managing the finances. But I also have to do both. He has to do both. So we have to be on the same page. So having those weekly meetings to discuss statuses of all the different activities is extremely helpful. Having the meetings to discuss, let's say, new feature enhancements, new feature enhancements is really important, because if they build features and they don't tell me about it, well, how am I going to market it? So
Right.
it's really important that we stay on the same page, and we have kind of a standard agenda that we focus on. And if by chance, let's say there's no development features that are available or not ready, then we have a quick status and we just move past it and go on to the other priority things on the list. We also have to have these meetings to discuss priorities. What truly is a priority? Because if you look at all the different tasks you have in a business, everybody can make everything a priority. We really have to be cognizant of what truly is a priority so that we can all understand how we're going to spend our time. It's not that we won't get to the other things, but we really have to prioritize and focus on what's really important to make things grow and make things happen. And so that's how we do it.
That's awesome. That is probably the best answer I've ever heard about how to make that work as co-founders, and being married. I have never heard anybody make those lines of delineation there and do that. That's really awesome.
It's important too that you understand the delineation, because you also have to have fun together.
Yeah.
Because we're workaholics, and we're like, okay, no, dinner's not about HomeZada. Dinner's about other things. What else is going on? And so we still have to have that conversation and that delineation. I'll give you another tip.
That's cool.
Separate offices.
Okay. Oh yeah, that's probably a really good thing too. Do you guys have kids?
We do not. We have what we refer to as brain babies. So my brain babies are always my companies.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So my wife and I, we've been married for 20 years, almost 21. We've been together for 21 years this month. And people are like, we do our best work together.
Great.
And I worked, we talked about this a little bit off camera, but I worked in the oil field. And when I worked in the oil field, I was gone for a month or a month and a half at a time. And my wife did a fantastic job. We have 5 kids, and she did a fantastic job. She is. And she never complained. And I mean, it was hard. It was hard on both of us, but I would venture to say it was harder on her. And then when I came home, I was only home for 2 weeks. And so it was, the first 3 days was everybody adjusting to me being home again, because I mean, things were just different. Dad comes home, everything's just different.
Yep.
And then, everything would change 3 days before I went back to work, because I'd start getting in work mode again, and then I was gone. But when we do work together, like, we do our best work together. And now I'm home every day, and other people that work in the oil field are they ask me, like, isn't she driving you nuts? Or they ask her, like, aren't you ready for him to quit this job and go back? And we're just both like, no. Like, we just, no. Like, that's my partner. Like, we just work better together. And I don't know, I picked the right person, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's just...
She sounds
best.
like she also understands logistics management. Having 5 kids and being the primary person while you were gone, she just understands, okay, all these different children have to get to different places, and I've got to make sure people are fed, and then I may need the help of other children to help out with the younger children. So she understands. She's got good management skills, too.
Oh, she's got very good management skills. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and she's not afraid to hit me in the back of the head when I say something stupid, either. Which is fairly often.
No, that's fantastic.
Yeah. No, it's great. So I love when I hear that, there's co-founders that are spouses and it works well.
Yeah. Break it down. I'm the first person to say break it down.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I think a good life partner is one of the best gifts that we could have. And
Huge support.
I don't know. I love it when it works. I love to see other people when it works. And I hate when I hear people say, "Oh man, I can't wait till they leave." You know, that just breaks my heart because ours is so good. You know, just like, oh, I hate it. So I'm so glad that you guys are working well together, and that it's worked for so long.
Yeah, and it's not without its challenges. You know,
Sure.
we've had missteps. We've done it for so long. We have missteps, but then we course correct really quickly. We're both big problem solvers. So because of that, we want to make sure that we're solving the problem and we can get to the bottom of it and we can break it down into smaller parts and pieces. But we also look at the impact. One of the things when we set those guidelines, not only the impact to ourselves, but the impact to the employees. When you have a lot of employees like that previous company did, it had over 250 employees, you want to show them respect as much as you want to show yourselves respect. And some people are not comfortable with public displays of affection. So we wanted to take that into consideration as well and make sure we didn't make other people feel uncomfortable. And so that was really important. And we just, it's not easy, like I said, but we know what our mission is and we know what our vision is and we know who we're trying to help. And that's what's most important.
Yeah. Okay, so kind of staying along those lines, and you were talking about showing respect and, you know, and helping. You are big in mentoring.
Yes.
You like to mentor and help people get into colleges and things like that. Mm-hmm. Why? Like, what is your driving force behind the mentoring, and what's kind of your big why as a person, and why do you want to help? Why do you want to show that respect for your big thing for mentoring them is kind of the underprivileged community. So what is your big push there?
Yeah, so when it comes to mentoring, so one of the things I looked at in my previous, I'm a workaholic, but in my previous company, I was working ridiculous hours, even on the weekends. In this company, believe it or not, I work long hours, but I have a little bit of time each month that I can commit to mentoring other individuals. And the first thing I wanted to do was pay back to the universities that I went to. So that's the first thing. I wanted to thank them for giving me the opportunity. And one of the things that I saw at my universities was my favorite professors were the ones that actually worked in a role, a job, and then also taught the theory and the real life experience of how to take that and apply it. My professors who were pure professors on pure theory, I'm the kind of person that just challenges the status quo anyway. And I was like, well, give me an example. And they couldn't. And that was really frustrating. So I wanted to make sure that I could provide real life examples from all the different roles that I've done in my experience, and then also provide assistance to people who may want to start their own company. Because a lot of people aren't willing to get into the nitty-gritty of starting a company. So that's why I do some of that as well. The other thing that I also want to make sure that we see happening in this world is I do think some underprivileged communities need some guidance. And I remember my mom always told me that as long as you work hard, you remember where you came from, you can actually accomplish anything. You can do whatever you want, but you got to work for it. And I took her seriously, and that's why I have a company and I do all kinds of things. But I think a lot of other people didn't have a mom like mine who said you can do anything. And so I want to make sure that other people understand that they can do what they can do the best of their ability. And sometimes people just don't know what's possible because they don't know what's out there. And that's what I also find out is a lot of youth today, they don't know what all the variety of jobs are that exist in the world. And I'll be one to share that with my nephews and nieces as well, helping them understand, there's so many jobs out there. Like, I don't even know them all. But how do we actually
Right.
start uncovering them so you can figure out where you want to be in life? Because maybe you have family members that are in the medical industry, but you don't want to be in the medical industry, but you don't know where else to go. And you're hearing from other people, well, maybe I should do this or this. I'm like, yeah, but there's also these roles. I mean, let's face it, you were in the oil fields. That's a huge job that people need to fulfill. And it's a very valuable job for the right person. And so that's really important. People don't know that sometimes this exists. And then I also believe that, because I also mentor veterans and their spouses coming back into the civilian world. And one of the things I do with these individuals is a lot of times we train our veterans, our military, to perform certain tasks. And sometimes those tasks don't always easily convert to the civilian world. And so how do we actually help them find the right resources, the right communication styles, to make sure that they are getting an opportunity, and they actually are getting an opportunity, not just to be interviewed, but to get to the second interview, then to get a job. And so how do we do that? And then with regards to the spouses, let's face it, like your own spouse, most military spouses are at home while their spouses are deployed or they are on some sort of job somewhere else for long periods of time. And they're holding it together. But the other thing that happens with military families is they move on average every 2.5 years. So retaining a job is also really important for them as well. So I want to make sure that I can provide value to as many people as I can in the areas that I find valuable. And I think a lot of times it's just helping people see, one, the options that are available to them, because they oftentimes don't always see it. Two, knowing that they can be their very best selves, whatever that is. And that sometimes the simplest things can make all the difference. And a quick example on that is I was mentoring one of my other alumni graduates, and she was looking for a new job, and she's an introvert, but also she wanted to move up on the ranks within her company, which is a very big company, but nobody knew who she was. So I said, okay, here's what you're going to do. How many floors do you have in your building? 4. Great. Once a week, you're going to go to a different floor and either get a water or coffee. Just walk. You don't have to say anything. Just do one step at a time. You're just going to walk so people can see who you are. And then they might ask who you are. And then you introduce yourself. And she's like, this isn't going to make a difference. I said, I'm telling you, it's going to make a difference. And she started doing it. Well, then she started getting out of her shell a little bit. And then she started meeting more people in the company. Well, then they started recognizing her. And then they started wanting to get her involved in other projects. And then they wanted her to do other roles. And then all of a sudden, here she is being offered promotions. But it's one little step at a time. And I just want to make sure that people understand, sometimes it's right in front of you. You just may not always see it because you've been doing something for so long because you've built this particular habit. You got to break those habits sometimes. And let's face it, I believe getting out of your comfort zone is a daily occurrence, and I think it's really, really important and sometimes a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's great. Like, I get to meet new people all the time
Every
on
day.
this podcast and talk to strangers. And it's, most of the time, I'd say 95% of the time, or probably more like 98% of the time, it's really, really great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. No, that's great, and I love the work that you're doing, and the people that you've chosen to mentor. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
That's
I love
really,
it.
really...
I meet the most amazing people. I learn from them as much as they learn from me. I learn about things that I would never have understood. I've mentored previous Navy SEALs, previous communications managers in the military, spouses in Air Force. I mean, same thing with the underprivileged kids. Like, you just look at them and they share with you what they want to do in life, and you've never heard of some of these careers because it's a youth that's much younger than I am. And I'm like, all right, get me up to speed. I need to understand what's going on. So you're fortunate. You have kids. So because you have kids, you can learn about what they're seeing versus I've got to go find those people and say, okay, what's going on?
Yeah. Well, and if you do it correctly, then that's the way a mentorship should be. Like, you should be learning as much as you're teaching.
Yep.
There's a lot of people that I'm going to be a mentor, and they go in with almost a harshness to them.
Yep.
And it just doesn't work. And then when they come out of that, they come out even harder than how they went in. So if you do it correctly, it's a very, very good thing. And you actually come out learning more than what you actually go in mentoring. So no, it's awesome. Very cool. I wasn't expecting all that. That's awesome.
Like I said, I like to work.
I love these stories. I love these stories. Let's go ahead and kind of go back a little bit to HomeZada.
Yeah.
And I like to flirt all over the place because that's how my brain works. When you were starting this, I know that you probably didn't hit it 100% when you put your MVP out and it worked perfectly from the beginning, right? Because that's how MVPs work, right? Yeah. So what were some of the mistakes and assumptions that you made mistakes that you made, and then assumptions that you just missed?
Yeah.
And how did you fix those?
Yeah. So with any company, you make a lot of mistakes. And so, first mistake we made at HomeZada is we believe we launched HomeZada probably a little bit too early. We were probably 5 years too early for the marketplace. And part of what I mean by that is we needed to educate consumer customers about the cloud. They were unfamiliar with it. They didn't understand where all this was going. They didn't understand security. They wanted to also build trust with us because what they are inputting into the system is very important. So they wanted to make sure that we were going to be around. So that's one of the first things that we missed is we probably started a little bit too early versus other industries were already using the cloud, especially commercial construction, because of the nature of how they manage their businesses. They would have architects in Japan, they'd have engineers in DC, but the project would be in Texas. And so they needed a cloud-based system well before it was even cloud. And so I remember we called it ASP and SaaS at the time. So that was the first thing. The second thing we did was we made an assumption that because of the type of product we had, people were only going to use the desktop. So we haphazardly built a mobile solution. And when I say haphazardly, we put it together kind of on the fly. And not realizing that our customers actually use both the mobile and the desktop sometimes within the same hour. So it's a pet peeve of mine. When mobile apps are different than the desktop, it's just a major pet peeve of mine. Always has been. And we're starting to see changes with a lot of companies going through this. But our company had no choice. We had to build the exact same app as was the desktop. So we decided to build a web responsive solution, which is better for everybody because if you use any device, you will get the same look and feel. And we had to do that rebuild probably 4 years into the solution. Now, that also gave us the opportunity to redo the user interface. So for most people on the phone, there's back-end development, but there's also front-end development. The user interface is the front-end development. And the first user interface was pretty, and it was nice, but it wasn't what we have today, which is a lot easier to use. We take into consideration the differences between the desktop and the mobile app, but we also make sure that they're all bound together, which is really important. The other thing we were very fortunate to have is our user interface experts, which just so happen to be a man and a wife, husband and wife trio, because what was so special about that is they gave both the female and the male perspective of managing a house, just like my husband and I do, which was really important because one of the assumptions we also made was that stay-at-home moms were going to be the number one user of HomeZada because they love their homes, they want to protect their families, they're really focused, they maybe have some more time to do all this. But lo and behold, that's not what we found out. Our users are right down the middle, men and women that are using our systems. And we have all generations using our systems, which was also surprising to us. But also, we also have this situation where we have a lot of working professionals using our system. And it makes sense because working professionals really want to be as efficient as possible. They really need to streamline a lot of processes because they just don't have enough time in this world. And it's not that we don't have stay-at-home moms using the system. We just have more working professionals using the system. And it's ironic how that happens. So we made those assumptions that our user and use case type of client was going to be one thing, and it turned out to be something completely different. And so we adjusted for that. We adjusted with our marketing messaging. We adjusted with the platform to make sure that we were constantly streamlining more things within the platform to make it easier for people to get things done in a timely fashion, and so on and so forth. So definitely the platform itself, definitely when we had to identify with the users, and then also, as I indicated a little bit earlier, also not fully being prepared for the professionals and waiting a bit to get that done. But we did ramp that up as fast as we could. And then also one of the biggest things that we underestimated, I think we had a suspicion, but we were in denial. The consumer marketing is super, 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 did I say super expensive?
Super expensive?
Super. And so
Super.
we did not, we kind of identified, but we're like, yeah, no, this is going to be fine. I think the other thing that we did was because we started a company in the early 90s, we didn't realize how noisy the marketplaces are today because there was no internet in the early 90s when we first built the Meridian platform versus the HomeZada platform. So consumer marketing is even more super expensive because of all the noise we see. And so how do you actually manage through that and adjust to that? The other thing that we saw too, which was, I thought it's a good challenge. Sometimes it's frustrating, but our last company was very industry specific. And when you're industry specific, there's very specific ways to communicate to your customers. And social media and a lot of digital marketing was coming on board, but it wasn't to what it is today. And a lot of companies in our niche business, we could still communicate one-on-one. We could do some of the traditional methods of conversation. But today, in order to reach consumers and even professionals, you need to be more diverse on digital marketing. And that goes from everything from all the different social platforms to email marketing to pay-per-click and so on and so forth. But I will say, which makes me excited, is it's easier to manage marketing concepts today than it was back then. Back then, you tried something and it was like, okay, I think it paid off. I'm not sure. Did it convert into sales? Yeah, but was that a sales staff member's skill set or was that a marketing skill set? We don't know. But today, you can actually track traffic to your site. You can track where it's coming from with specific clients and customers and partners. And that is also good for a better relationship with your partner. So those are the things that I do like about where the changes have happened in today's day and age.
Nice. Well, it's just super expensive.
Super. Did I say super? Super, super, super,
You
super.
said super. More so than the business side. The consumer side is super expensive.
Yes, super expensive. Because you need a lot of touches for consumers. And you need to build trust with them, especially with the type of product that we offer. And that's one thing that's, we took that into consideration very early on to protect the consumer's data. And it was really important. And as it so happens, it's paid off because a lot of people are more aware of where their data is going. And our users actually read our privacy policy and our terms and conditions.
Well, I bet they do.
They do.
Just going back to the very beginning of our conversation, just because it's such a big asset. Yeah. And apparently it's paid off because you're in 20 countries that you don't advertise in.
Yeah. Using the current version, using the
that's
American English
huge.
version.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you have to do anything different once you started getting into other countries? Like, is there any laws as it goes to home ownership? Once you started getting into those countries, you're like, crap. Now we have to retool our whole site or retool our, terms and services. Like, how did that go once you started getting into other countries?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we still focus on the U.S. because the U.S. is 120 million homeowners. That's a big enough market. And so we know that long term, our company will go into other countries. Today, people from these other countries are signing up using the Americanized English version of HomeZada. And they're okay with that. And so right now, we don't need to go through the privacy policies and the terms and conditions in, let's say, the EU. And we do not need to house our data inside the EU at this present moment. We do have our security policy as it's based on the U.S. But as we continue to grow the company, we will need to take on those responsibilities in those other countries and in those other regions. And it's also beneficial because, let's face it, not everybody has the same process of managing homes like we do in this country. They have different types of materials. They have different ages of homes.
Sure.
If you think of like England as an example, old homes, a lot of masonry work.
So pretty, though.
Exactly. A lot of masonry work. So there's different needs. And some of the things that we would need to do in those regions is maybe change out some of the maintenance tasks, change out some of the projects that they would do. Maybe basement projects are not even a thing in the UK, but they are here. So taking into all those considerations, that's where we will need to go moving forward. But at this present moment, we don't need to take on that responsibility, and people come in and use whatever we have at this present moment as if they're signing up in the U.S.
You just said something that I didn't even think about. So, like basement projects.
Yes.
People in Florida don't have basements. People in Colorado
don't have basements.
We have basements all over the place. So do you customize HomeZada for each individual area of the country? Or is it just kind of a blanket and then you customize it yourself? How does that work?
Great question.
I didn't even think about that.
Great question. So one of the things that we do today is if you live, for instance, in Colorado or traditional 4 seasons where you get snow, then we have some tasks that we pre-populate into the system that are relevant to those individuals who live in those territories. For the people who live in warm weather territories like Arizona, Florida, even California, we don't put in all those winter tasks that require, let's say, snow. There's still winter tasks that people need to do in these regions, but they aren't to the extreme that there's ice and snow that you see in places like Colorado, Minnesota, Wisconsin, so on and so forth. So we do customize it like that. We also have, for instance, on maintenance, we have 150 additional tasks in the system that any homeowner can take a look at, and they can put them in their own system, meaning their own calendar. And they can say, okay, I want to do this. I want to do this. Additionally, any homeowner can go in and create a custom maintenance task, custom project, custom inventory item, etc. And a couple examples of that might be, and we were talking about this earlier before the call, is New England. Mm-hmm. New England has a lot of historical homes because it's a very old part of our country. So some of the tasks that we have in our system may not meet quite the standards that a historical home has. So the homeowner can go in and customize I have these old radiators that I need to keep, and I need to go through this type of maintenance task and add it to my system. Or I may have to go through a historical review every 2 years. And so I'm going to put it in the system to remind myself to contact the Historical Society to make sure they review my property. Not saying they need to do it or not, but you just don't know. So any homeowner can do that.
Right.
Another good example is we have a lot of customers that have pets that require specific grooming. So dogs that require actual grooming, that you take them in and get trimmed, they will put that in their system. We have customers who have horses. Horses need to be reshoed. And so instead of them figuring out when to do it, they're like, okay, I can use HomeZada for that. I'm going to use the task of reshoeing my horses, and I'm going to create a recurring task, and I'm going to set it for however many months I need to do it. And then I'm going to put it either per horse, or I'm going to put it for the bulk of the horses. And then I'm going to put it in the system. So I no longer have to remember when it needs to be done.
That's crazy.
Yes.
I didn't even think about all that.
People do all kinds of things with HomeZada.
So, stuff like that, are you working on, and maybe you don't want to answer this, but are you working on something where, like all those tasks, veterinary tasks, like reshoeing a horse, can you make it so HomeZada connects with the veterinarian, and you can just kind of set a schedule with the vet and just kind of take that off the homeowner's plate altogether? Like, are you working on something like that?
Great question.
Like, so, I mean, HomeZada is doing everything else.
So not at this present moment, and specifically not with the veterinarian type activities just yet.
Sure.
But when it comes to maintenance tasks, yes, we have the ability for you to connect with somebody in the system. It'll take you to another site or another provider so that you can get a service provider in there as quickly as possible. But we want to enhance that over time and make it easier. We also want to make sure that when we can have, for instance, like air filters, when you can buy them, can you buy them from within the system, or can you get to the system where you can buy them quickly rather than you having to go to another URL? And so we do want to make sure that we're adding that, but we have a really long roadmap, and it also is contingent about what are the priorities of the customers that bring us feedback, what are the priorities of our partners, and they have a lot of priorities as well. And so how do we actually fit all this in, knowing that our team is still small, and continue to build out our solution, but also take a look at what is also going to be market needed in the future. So we also have to predict some of this stuff that people will need in the future, because there's new technologies that are being put out there. So a good example of that is there's AI technology has always been around for facial recognition, and it's really good because faces have very distinct features, versus item recognition is only newer now. And items are really hard to recognize sometimes. So if a homeowner takes a picture close up of a stainless steel something, the system can't figure out what it is. It can't tell if it's a dishwasher, a stove, or a refrigerator. So you got to back up in order to do that. But we do have the ability to take AI recognition through video inside HomeZada, and it will predict some of the items that are in your space. And it will give you the review of those items, and you can say yay or nay. They're in the system, and it will help you create a faster home inventory as well. So that's an example of technology that's out there that maybe people are not aware of, and that will continue to enhance as the technology enhances, and we want to make sure we provide it to our homeowners so we can speed up the process.
Nice. I've got an idea for you that I'll talk to you after we get off the air.
Of
another guy that I had a show with a little while ago that I think would fit perfectly on this. But yeah, so anyway, we've been on for an hour and 15 minutes, and so I think we can probably go ahead and land this plane, dock this boat, whatever it is. So I will go ahead and ask you the last two questions that I ask everybody that's on this show. And that is, what advice would you give to founders or soon-to-be founders that are going to watch this program?
So it's not always easy, but always take off little chunks at a time and measure everything. I just measure as many things as you can within the business to stay on top of all the different elements that are going on. That's what I would recommend. Is it's not always easy. You're going to get frustrated. Just bear with it and make sure that you are measuring everything so that you know where you need to make improvements and where you need to say, stop, I'm not going to do this anymore. And when I say stop, I'm not going to do this anymore, maybe it's a particular marketing campaign. And I'm going to bring up marketing because it's an easy one, or it's a feature set. Mm-hmm. The feature set wasn't taken off and it's not working and nobody needs it. Then take it out of the system. It doesn't matter. Or hold on to it, but know that it's not going to be your pride and joy. Because other people don't find it valuable. It doesn't mean it's not valuable. It doesn't mean that you're not valuable. It just means just keep moving forward. But make sure you're measuring every step of the way so that you can make decisions on data rather than getting so emotionally tied by things. Because it's hard for startup, especially founders, when they're starting to build something. It's, their brain baby,
Sure.
and they want their brain babies to be accepted by everybody. And it doesn't always work out that way. And you may have a product that won't be a fit for everybody. Like our product, HomeZada, it's not a fit for all homeowners. Not all homeowners are in the place of they care to take care of their home or they care to manage the finances. Many are, but not all of them are. So just be aware that you need to find your niche and then measure it everything. So, and stay with it.
Nice.
Enjoy the journey.
Yeah. Stick-to-itiveness. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good advice. And then last, what is the best way for our viewers to get in touch with you if they so wish?
Perfect. They can reach me at HomeZada.com, so info@HomeZada.com, and everyone in the company knows how to get a hold of me. Or they can connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'm at Dodson on LinkedIn.
Awesome. Elizabeth, it's been awesome, and I could probably talk with you for another hour and 15 minutes, but we'll probably lose some viewers if we just talk for 3 hours. So we'll probably go ahead and just quit and talk off air. Perfect. So you have a really good day, and I really appreciate you being on.
Thank you.